Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode from the Paperhats Survival Multiplayer server. My name is Glitch. It is a great morning here in the land of Wildwood, and I am really looking forward to getting out today and doing some exploring and a little adventuring. Off camera, I've had a few, let's just call them challenges that I've had to overcome, partially because of, well, the difficulty of getting a certain material, and partially because of me making a big mistake. More on that in a second. Now, off camera, I've been working on basically putting in the paths. I have to say, I absolutely love how the pathing is coming out. Using this block palette is just really just open the space up, and it goes really good also with the vibrant green of the jungle grass. It just looks so good. I do realize I'm going to be doing a lot of mining. I basically because the granite, it took a lot of granite to do this, and the dripstone too. I had to go to a dripstone cave and try to clean it out. Working on it as best I can, but it's coming together. But yeah, wow, this just looks so good, and I really love how it came out. Did take some time since I now have the sleeping hut no longer needed. I did set up time to basically set up a small auto smelter. It's not huge, and to be perfectly frank, it'll be good for my purposes for small projects. If I have something ginormous I got to get done, I can go to the public smeltery, but this will at least let me smelt up things that I need if I'm here at base relatively easy. Also made sure to set up a line of cauldrons with lava around back so that basically I have access to infinite fuel. Now, beyond that, that's kind of the difficulty in getting materials. And also I've spent a good bit of time off camera and also going over to Shay's Plays shop in the shopping district, farming up mangrove. Now that stuff is easy to come by, but the trees are a pain in the neck to harvest. But it's coming along because I think I want to use a lot of mangrove wood in a storage barn. But again, that's going to take some time and dedicated grind work. Now on to the mistake. I wanted to get a second set of wings, or excuse me, an extra set of wings. I have two, but I wanted to leave myself with a little more wiggle room. And to be frank, I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I thought I would go ahead and try to conquer my fear of the void and fly from the central end island out to the outer end islands. And yeah, I paid attention to the X coordinate. I paid attention to the Z coordinate. I kind of didn't notice when the Y coordinate got too low. And, well, yeah, I lost everything in the void. Frustrating? Yep. But this is Minecraft. We improvise, we adapt, we grind for materials. Now, thankfully, I was able to get all my gear back, and I did make another trip out there. To be perfectly honest, I'm very glad I wasn't recording because that would definitely go down as Glitch's most embarrassing moment. But that being said, I do have to say that I've gotten everything back up to where I was before I lost my stuff. And the good part is that before I did that, I did not have a chance to upgrade all my gear. And with all the mining I've done from the skeleton grinder and getting all the materials and the tuff I need for different projects, I finally had enough diamonds to dupe up the all of the smithing templates so that I can now upgrade to netherite. So before we get going today, I really thought I might want to start out with a little metal music. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's not what I had in mind. I was thinking something a little more along the lines of, breaking the fourth wall just a little bit. It is one of those things when you make these episodes that you sometimes come up with a joke that you think is going to be funny, but then, yeah, you make a little blunder and it kind of falls flat. I'd originally intended to have the sounds from the smithing table be the metal music. Um, yeah, having that happen, especially since you're in Java Edition, you have a that real big crescendo anytime you complete a challenge. Using that really only works if you remember to hit the record button. So sorry, that one's on me. That joke kind of fell flat. But moving on, and that being said, it feels really good to finally have my gear upgraded to netherite. It's been a long time coming, and I will probably have to do that again because I would like to have a set of it downstairs in the display. Now, last time I did say that I wanted to head out and look for something that's kind of right in our backyard, but is kind of a neat discovery. Um, but to be honest, there's something else that came up in between episodes that, well, to be perfectly frank, I am just really, really curious about. I read something that, well, I don't know how else to explain this without showing it. So, let's head out to the mining desert and then we'll head back here for the close to home action. I'll meet you there. Now, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but here on Paperhats, we usually will try to find a desert area somewhere in the world that we basically designate the mining desert. In essence, a place where we can go gather materials. If it gets destroyed, well, it's not anywhere near anybody's builds, and it makes it easier to do that. That being said, that still means the structures are there, and, well, off camera, and well, actually, a few months ago, came out here and I found this desert temple. I explored it, and this was after the Trails and Tales update had come, and well, apparently I missed something. Because when Mojang went ahead and added in archaeology, um, I heard about how they had updated things like the desert well, and while that's a really classical structure, and we now have other structures, um, I didn't realize they gave the desert temple a little more love than I knew about. Now, incidentally, I know I went ahead and upgraded Terraformer to Netherite, but for this, because Terraformer is an efficiency 5 shovel, I need to take this slow and careful. So I grabbed a spare shovel my uh, from my backup gear, and I'm going to bring my bed inside actually. But pretty much everyone who plays Minecraft knows about the central room here where the TNT are, and I've already been down there. I mean, it's where you can get the TNT. I've already mined out the chest and that, and things of that nature. But and also there is a bunch of suspicious sand you can find over here as well. However, I did not know that if you look back here in the back corner, there is a line of sand. And at first, I paid it no mind. I kind of looked around, even checked it with the F3 debug menu, and well, it's just regular sand. So what? But apparently, if you look here, I'm going to dig this out real careful. There are now stairs under here. So we're going to go ahead and take this real careful and watching for that. You know what? Let me grab my torches and put them in my offhand so I have better lighting. But we're going to come down here, and now you want to be careful with suspicious sand because that and suspicious gravel. If it falls, you will hear like the breaking sound like you would for a tool, and it means you lose that particular item. But if we come down here, and I'm going to go ahead and carefully break that out. And still nothing there, but if we look, keep coming down. So this is definitely a new feature, but dig this one out. And then right down here, you'll find suspicious sand. And let's go ahead and grab a brush. And now it tempts me to, not take my time and blow this up. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dig this out and see just how much of this structure is actually there. So let me do that, and I will be right back. Well, it didn't actually take that long to clear this place out. In fact, well, I mean, to be honest, this is basically a 5x5 room. But it is really neat to me that the developers just keep on adding things to the game. And sometimes, though they don't make a big deal out of it, they do add a little more fun to the existing structure. Now, being honest, the loot, I had already gotten the loot from the suspicious sand up above, but what was still here is still not bad. I mean, got the TNT and a few pottery sherds, a little bit of gunpowder. The pottery sherds are about the most interesting thing, primarily because at some point I do want to um, kind of play around with that and maybe switch out some of the decorative pots I put around my base. But like I said, it is just neat. This desert temple was always, well, to be honest, one of my favorite structures. My original survival world, every enchanted golden apple I ever found was in a desert temple. And it is just really cool to me that the developers have gone to the trouble of, well, adding in some more adventure and some more treasure, but in a subtle way that made you actually had to look for it and put a little more treasure right under our noses. But now that I've checked out this uh, little treasure vault, it's time to head back towards home and, well, head out for the discovery I made right near the base. So let me grab the last of my gear and I'll meet you back at the house. Okay, so now I'm back at the house and it took a little time to gather the supplies we're going to need for this particular part of the adventure. One of the things I wanted to make sure I did was grab plenty of copper, plenty of feathers, so that way when my brush inevitably breaks, I can make them on the fly. I did notice also after the fact that I also got a couple of emeralds in that in the desert temple, so a little bit of a bonus. Also made sure to throw a couple extra shulker boxes into the ender chest. That way, while we're over there, we can go ahead and do that. But um, apparently, Squid has met his end. Um, like I said, this is actually quite close to the house. I'm going to go ahead and just head over there by boat. Um, as I said last time, so what happened when I found this place was, well, to be perfectly honest, I had gone to my village and to do some trading, and I was on the way back. And well, while I was doing that, I wound up realizing I was not quite gonna make it on rockets. And did I go the wrong? I think I'm going the wrong direction. This is why you use things like the Scumpus. Useful thing in the Nether and in the Overworld. There we go. There's another one right there. And I made sure to kind of mark the path out um, to this. But I basically had to land because of the fact that I ran out of rockets and I just wasn't going to make it quite home. But coming along this river, because again, the village is just over that way. Coming along this river, I landed only to discover right about by this Scumpus here that not far from my base is a trail ruin. And I have never actually had the chance to explore one of these, but unlike the Desert Temple, these will have suspicious gravel rather than suspicious sand. Now, one of the challenges is these things usually have kind of a central area and then they branch off in multiple directions. It is aggravating that they seem to generate real close to water because again, if any of the suspicious gravel falls, it will break and you'll lose the item. But I think the first step I got to do is I need to clear out some of these trees so I can see what I'm doing. And then I think what I want to do is I'm going to leave the camera running. If there are any really big highlights, I'll be able to show them. But I want to dig this down to the point where we're kind of in the central area, and then we can kind of move forward and figure out where this is going from there. So let me grab my axe, my shovel, and let's get this place cleared out. I will be right back. Okay, I think that gets this project off to a pretty decent start. Now, after I went ahead and cleared out a bunch of the birch trees, I did take the time to set up kind of an outpost here by the ruin. Mostly, I just wanted access to a bed and also to an ender chest crafting table. Did also want to have a place where I could set up some chests so that, well, since I'm going to be digging out quite a bit, I have a place to basically put all the materials, and it's very clear to me I'm going to get a lot of it. But thus far, I got the beginnings. I've pretty much got the central tower dug out. I was a lot more conservative here on this side closer to the river, and I'm really glad I was because unfortunately, it does look like there is an underwater cave that starts here in this little inlet, but then continues down through. I'm not sure how far, but it is going to make it so that I'm going to have to be very, very careful in how I get down there. But now that I have the central tower kind of excavated out, originally I thought about just kind of leaving the gravel and doing that kind of on camera talking through it, but it just seemed better to just dig all the gravel and suspicious gravel out and just see what this place looked like. And as I'm looking at it, it kind of reminds me of the staircases you find in, say, the Stronghold or in an end city. But coming down through here, because you do have this, the mud brick stairs that are just kind of coming down through. This could almost be almost like an entrance going down in. But when you come down into this small room here, you come down and, well, unfortunately, you drop down and you kind of hurt yourself. But it leads you into this central room. And I have to admit, I have never taken so much time to dig out something in all my time in Minecraft. But it is an interesting challenge to try to excavate this out and to be so very careful. I think though this is the end of the central structure. Now I got to figure out which ways to go. Now, a couple of clues I have. Number one, I have found suspicious gravel over here, just kind of marked it out, which tells me that the structure likely goes off in that direction. Um, and then also I did notice over here in a couple of places there's coarse dirt, which is not naturally occurring in this biome. So therefore, that's probably a direction too. Um, I gotta admit, I have my gut tells me that this direction is probably gonna also be where they go. It just, to be perfectly honest, it seems like these things generate under rivers. And something about this kind of almost archway or doorway just says that something's back there. Um, and then over here, I don't really see anything that indicates it, but I'm definitely going to give that a go. But good part is that thus far, the structure's coming out of the ground pretty well. So I think my next step is I need to run back to base, grab a bunch of sand to close this in, every sponge I own, and, well, see what else I can dig up once I get that water out of my way. So, let me run back to base, grab some stuff, and, let's keep digging. Well, after an attack from a pillager patrol and having to pause and take some time to repair my tools, I figured it's time to just stop and give you a quick update on how the dig is progressing. Now, I am going to say right off the jump, this place has turned out to be quite a bit larger than I was really expecting. I'm going to save kind of looking at what the different structures look like until the end because, well, like I said, I had to stop and repair my tools because I dug, well, more or less in this case, mined pretty much everything out throughout the structure, but I still have not had a chance to dig out a good bit of the suspicious gravel and, well, the gravel and dirt and all that. Um, I will have to say I really am surprised by just how much there is in here. And I mean, as you can see, if you look down, just look around here, there's at least three pieces right here. Well, possibly more, but there, I mean, it's all over the place throughout the structure. Um, this did present a bit of a challenge, though. I've actually started a small counter. I'll show you that in a bit of how I'm keeping track of items I've lost because I mean, when you do go to get the different things, if you stop brushing them, they will kind of sink back in. And if you go ahead and do these kind of things again, like I said, they will sink back in, but if they fall, they will break. In the time lapse, I think there were a couple of times where that you could hear that sound. Well, it kind of uses the sound of glass breaking, but the problem is, occasionally you'll have one where you're brushing away and well, hello, no, 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 no. Yes, please. I will take one of the smithing templates. Um, well, that's one of the four that can be found in trail ruins. That's awesome. Um, hopefully I can find a few more. But if you mine a piece out, it can cause it still counts as a blocked up update, can cause other pieces to fall. So I've had to be very, very careful in how I handle these. I am very glad that I went ahead and if we look up here, you can see the wood up here in the corner. That's where that little inlet for the river is. I went ahead and um, covered that up, and then I dug out used some sponges to empty out that little cave. Glad I did because you can see just how much where the jack o' lanterns are, how much of these structures would have been affected by all that water. But coming down through here, it's very clear that there's more houses coming down through here, and it kind of tapers off towards the end. But all in all, it looks like I've still got a lot of digging on ahead of me. And well, I mean, while the music is pretty cool and it's been kind of fun doing a time lapse with it. Um, kind of not sure the best way to go forward. But for the sake of time, there's part of me that wonders if through the magic of editing, we can jump ahead of things right about now. Because in truth, it took me forever to clear out all of the gravel and suspicious gravel that was in here. After I was done with that, I did want to decorate a little bit. Again, I'm trying to this season not only make my builds look good, but my farms look good. I would kind of struggle with this because I wanted to leave it as almost like an organic dig. So I just added in some support structures going up through and left things pretty much as is. I do have to say that I am impressed with what the structure itself looks like. It's like it's a village, but not. It's like a almost a pre-village. I do love how they use the use of terracotta and brick, things like that. Also, each building has almost a character all its own. I mean, this one almost looks like uh, well, basically a weaponsmith's house or a stonemason's house. It is, and there's all in this structure is where I found one of the armor trims. Um, but also as you're going up through, some of the houses, well, I mean, the loot wasn't that great, but still there was stuff to be found. This one was almost completely empty. I almost wonder if this was supposed to be, well, like someone's home. And then as I went up through, you get more and more structures here you have, well, basically either a smith or a weaponsmith, because you or a toolsmith, but you have the furnace and the blast furnace, the smithing table, um, just a lot of the thing. It is also interesting to me that throughout this entire structure, I did not find a single chest, and I had forgotten. If memory serves, they actually don't come with a loot chest. But long story short, you had plenty of loot lying right around. Um, in this structure too, I found another one of the trims. Like I said, we'll get to that shortly. but as you go up through, you come up into almost the common meeting area. And while the most I met here was a pillager who dropped in. You also had almost like I don't know what you would call this, but it's almost like it was like the Great Hall of it because it's one of the places where you have some of the decorative terracotta, and it looks larger and a little more grand than the rest of the structure. Then over here, I almost want to call this the music shop because over here is where I found, well, one of the coolest finds in here. But again, this almost looks like either part of someone's home or another shop. And then, of course, you have your central tower, and then a ow, a path heading off into the distance. Um, it is just interesting to see how these structures have changed over time and just what Mojang has added into the game and how like this structure was completely generated within stone and andesite, all the different blocks. But it was it's here like with so much fun and so much loot and well just a lot of discovery that was lying well hidden in plain sight. And it's getting a little late. I think I'm gonna quick before we go to look at the loot, head back up. And as the sun is setting, I also did want to add in a little bit of stuff. So I added a crane to basically as though the archaeological society was digging stuff out. Um, and I think right now we're gonna quick grab a little sleep. And now, fresh in the morning, it's time to look at the loot. The one other thing that I do have to admit, it took a lot of work to do this. I wound up burning through almost two brushes and one shovel just to get through all of the materials down there. For the pickaxe, I just used either preserver or I used stonebreaker just to make sure that I could gather those materials. These three double chests over here are filled to the brim with resources that came out of that hole. So even just that is a useful thing. But like I said, with the event in the adventure box, I have what we found over in the Desert Temple. And like I said, I did have a pillager patrol come through. So yeah, unwelcome though that be, they did leave a little bit of fun stuff behind. Now, as far as the loot goes, there is some stuff that's not very impressive. There is a ton and a half of dye. In fact, most of this was in that large brick structure. Um, there are also things that were kind of useful. There's glass and tinted glass. There are candles, even some resources like like bricks and coal and a little bit of clay. And then there's a few things that it's okay, really things like a dead bush and a little bit of wheat and some seeds, a couple of wooden hoes and a couple of flower pots. And while that isn't too great, there were a few treasures. One solitary emerald, a gold nugget of all things, lots and lots of pottery sherds, which I'm going to be using around my house and the base to decorate things a little bit. But best of all, there were three copies of the Riser armor trim, one copy of the Shaper armor trim, and two, count 'em, two, of the Relic music disc, which I will definitely be adding to my collection. In the end, I wound up taking account, and I have three pieces of endstone that I renamed as items lost for times when, well, I unfortunately find something out and the suspicious gravel fell, and you heard the shattering of glass, which means that item is gone, and I have no way to find out what it was. But all in all, I think the dig has been a huge, huge success. So now that I've got everything buttoned up here at the dig site, it's time to head home with all of my loot and the materials and get going on that storage barn. But also start working on another project that came up. I think I was just gonna call it a Bob Collectathon. But that's gonna take some preparation and a lot of time, so that is gonna have to wait for next time. But if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. And also consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. My name is Glitch, and I do hope I'll see you next time for the next episode on the Paperhats Survival Multiplayer server. Thanks for watching.